Kindiki Forest. The name itself is a whisper on the wind, a warning. Locals won't speak of it after sundown. They know what lurks beneath the ancient canopy. Legends call it a place where the veil between our world and the next is shredded thin as cobwebs. They say the souls of the tormented are trapped here, bound to the gnarled roots and twisted branches. We're talking about a place steeped in dark history, a place of unspeakable rituals and violent deaths, a place that feeds on fear. This isn't just a collection of trees, it's a living, breathing entity with a malevolent intelligence. We wanted to understand its power. We wanted to see what happens when you push back against the darkness. Our investigation begins at dusk. The air grows heavy, thick with an unseen pressure. The temperature drops dramatically, an instant sign of paranormal activity. We have brought 5 contestants, each one believing they have the fortitude to last until sunrise. They are lured by the promise of €1 million, a prize for their courage. Or is it a payment for their soul? They stand at the forest's edge, a jagged maw of shadows that seems to swallow the last rays of sunlight. Their bravado is a thin mask, easily shattered. I can see the doubt flickering in their eyes. They are about to cross a threshold from which there is no easy return. The rules are simple. Survive until dawn. No one gets out before the first light kisses the horizon. The entire forest is wired. We have static night vision cameras, full-spectrum cameras and digital recorders placed everywhere. We will capture everything. Every whisper, every shadow, every scream. The contestants are equipped with nothing but a flashlight and their own nerve. They are bait. We are here to document what happens when human energy, a beacon of light and fear, is offered to the entities that claim this dark domain as their own. This is a lockdown like no other. This is an experiment in terror. As they step past the petrified, moss-covered sign that reads Kindiki, keep out, the silence is immediate. It's not a peaceful silence. It is a heavy, expectant void. The air itself seems to hold its breath. The usual sounds of the wilderness, the insects, the nocturnal animals are gone. It's a dead zone. The contestants walk forward, their flashlight beams cutting nervous, trembling paths through the oppressive blackness. The forest is watching them, waiting. They are trespassers in a place that does not forgive. Their journey into the heart of fear has just begun, and already the isolation is a crushing weight upon their shoulders. This is raw, this is extreme. The first hour is a test of nerves. The contestants try to stay together, a small, fragile herd against the encroaching darkness. But Kindiki Forest has other plans. It seeks to divide, to isolate, to conquer. The path they follow seems to shift and twist behind them, erasing their way back. Disorientation is the first weapon the forest uses. A cold spot suddenly envelops one contestant, dropping the ambient temperature by over 20 degrees. He cries out, a sharp gasp of shock, but his companions feel nothing. It's a targeted attack, a sign that the entities here are intelligent and can focus their energy with pinpoint precision. Then come the sounds. A twig snaps just beyond the reach of their light. A disembodied whisper slithers through the trees, a sibilant hiss that our parabolic microphones pick up clearly. It has no discernible source. We hear it on our audio feeds, a Class A EVP, a direct communication from the other side. Get out! The voice is raspy, filled with ancient hatred. The contestants freeze. Their faces are masks of pure, undiluted fear. They shine their lights wildly into the impenetrable wall of trees, but there is nothing there. Nothing human, anyway. The psychological game has started. Suddenly, a woman screams. She points a trembling finger towards a massive, gnarled oak tree. For a fleeting second, her flashlight beam illuminated a figure. A tall, slender shadow person, darker than the night itself, was standing there, watching them. It had no features, no face, just a void in the shape of a man. The moment the full force of the light hit it, it dissipated like smoke. The other contestants saw nothing, and they accuse her of hysteria. This is a classic demonic tactic: create division, foster doubt, make the victim feel alone and crazy. The entity is feeding on their fear, growing stronger with every panicked breath. The initial eerie silence is now replaced by a cacophony of unseen horrors. The contestants hear faint, sorrowful weeping coming from all directions at once. It's the sound of a woman in deep despair, an echo of a past tragedy replaying itself over and over. Then, the weeping is cut short by a guttural, inhuman growl that seems to vibrate through the very ground beneath their feet. They are surrounded. The forest is alive with the tormented energies of those who perished here. This is no longer about winning money. This has become a raw, primal fight for survival against forces they cannot comprehend. The group splinters. Panic is a contagion, and it's spreading fast. Two of the men, convinced they can brave it alone, break away from the others, shouting that the sounds are just tricks of the wind, a fatal mistake. The forest preys on the isolated. As they push deeper into the woods, our cameras capture their flashlights beginning to flicker and die one by one. This is a common phenomenon in highly active locations. Spirits can drain energy from batteries, from equipment, from people. We watch on our monitors as they are plunged into total darkness, their panicked shouts swallowed by the oppressive woods. For those who remain, the physical manifestations intensify. The path ahead becomes slick with a thick black ooze that smells of decay and sulfur. It bubbles up from the soil, a vile secretion from the land itself. It's not natural mud, it clings to their boots, heavy and cold, as if trying to pull them down into the earth. One contestant, a young woman named Clara, stumbles and falls, her hands sinking into the foul substance. When she pulls them back, they are covered in what looks like coagulated blood, and she begins screaming uncontrollably. The forest is no longer passive, it is actively, physically hostile. The air becomes thick with phantoms. Apparitions are no longer fleeting glimpses in the periphery. A full-bodied apparition of a colonial-era soldier, his uniform tattered and his face a mask of agony, with an empty eye socket, manifests directly on the path. He stands there for a full 10 seconds, bathed in the beams of their flashlights, before vanishing into thin air. There is no mistaking what they saw. It was a solid, detailed figure. A soul trapped in a loop of its own tragic death. The sheer shock of the encounter leaves the contestants paralyzed, their minds struggling to process the impossible reality they are facing. The forest's grip tightens, turning the very environment against them. Vines that were inert moments before seem to writhe and snake across the path, tripping them. The branches of ancient trees seem to lower and claw at their clothes and skin, leaving deep, painful scratches. One of the contestants, a man named Ben, gets his leg caught in a tangle of thorny vines that seem to tighten around him like a living snare. The more he struggles, the deeper the thorns dig in. It's as if the flora of Kindiki has been animated by the malevolent consciousness that permeates this cursed ground, becoming an extension of its will to harm them. The challenges become more gruesome, more personal. This is not just about enduring the environment, it's a gauntlet designed by the damned. The forest begins to project illusions, tailored to each contestant's deepest fears. For one man who has a phobia of spiders, the ground ahead appears to be swarming with thousands of them, a writhing carpet of arachnids. He freezes, his mind locked in a state of pure terror, unable to move forward or back. For another, the sound of her crying child echoes from deep within the woods, a cruel and manipulative lure designed to draw her away from the relative safety of the path. The physical assaults escalate from scratches to something far more sinister. We capture it on camera. 3 long, parallel scratch marks appearing instantaneously on a contestant's back, right through his thick jacket. A demonic attack. The classic 3 scratches, mocking the Holy Trinity. He falls to the ground, crying out in pain and shock, feeling the burning sting of wounds inflicted by an invisible hand. This is proof, undeniable, physical evidence of a violent, non-human entity making its presence known. It wants them to know they are powerless. It wants them to feel its wrath. The forest demands a sacrifice. A challenge materializes before them. In a small clearing, a ghostly, spectral fire ignites. Within the ethereal flames, they see visions of their loved ones in peril. A disembodied voice, cold and ancient, commands them to step through the fire to prove their worth. It promises that the pain will cleanse them and grant them passage. It's a sadistic choice, a psychological trap. To refuse is to feel the guilt of cowardice. To accept is to walk into an unknown, potentially fatal paranormal ordeal. The pressure is immense, pushing their sanity to the breaking point. The tormentors are not just ghosts, they are intelligent and strategic. They begin to mimic the contestants' voices. One person will hear their name called in a perfect imitation of their friend's voice, leading them off the path and into a prepared trap, a sudden sinkhole, a dense thicket of thorns. The group's trust in each other shatters completely. They can no longer be sure if the voice they hear is a friend in need or a demonic entity luring them to their doom. They are completely alone now, each trapped in their own bubble of paranoia and fear, surrounded by mimics and liars from the other side. So, as the night deepens, the forest shifts its tactics from physical assault to psychological warfare. It stops trying to scare them and instead starts trying to break them. The air, fills with the scent of their childhood homes, a smell of fresh-baked cookies or maybe a specific perfume worn by a lost loved one. This is a cruel form of manipulation. It offers a fleeting moment of comfort and nostalgia, only to, rip it away, leaving a deeper sense of loss and despair in its wake. The emotional whiplash is just devastating, chipping away at their resolve and making the present horror feel even more inescapable. The entities begin to whisper secrets, not just random threats, but personal, intimate secrets that no one else could possibly know. A contestant hears a voice detailing a past transgression, a lie he told a decade ago. Another is reminded of a deep-seated insecurity she has never spoken aloud. This is telepathic communication. The spirits are reading their minds, plucking their deepest fears and shames from their consciousness and are using them as weapons. This invasive, violating act makes them feel exposed, naked, with no defense against the unseen forces that know them better than they know themselves. The landscape itself becomes a tool of mental torture. The trees and rocks begin to form pareidolia on a terrifying scale. For horrifyingly long moments, the bark of a tree will twist into a screaming face. The arrangement of fallen leaves will form the clear outline of a skeletal body. Their minds, exhausted and suggestible, can no longer distinguish between what is real and what is an illusion. The entire forest becomes a gallery of horrors, a constantly shifting Rorschach test designed to reflect their own inner turmoil and amplify their fear to, honestly, unbearable levels. They are trapped not just in a forest, but in a prison of their own perception. The most terrifying weapon is the loss of time. Contestants look at their watches, only to find the hands spinning wildly or frozen in place. An hour will feel like a minute, and a minute will stretch into an eternity. This temporal distortion shatters their last anchor to reality. They have no way of knowing how close they are to sunrise. Hope begins to fade. The thought of dawn becomes an abstract, impossible concept. Survival seems not just unlikely, but logically unattainable. The forest wants them to believe that the night will never end. It wants them to give up. The breaking point arrives. The carefully constructed walls of sanity crumble into dust. The forest is no longer just a backdrop. It is a stage for a symphony of human terror. The first to completely break is the man who saw the spiders. He suddenly sprints from the path, screaming that they are crawling all over him, and runs headlong into the deepest, darkest part of the woods. His screams become more and more distant, filled with a gurgling, wet sound, before being abruptly silenced. The remaining contestants are left frozen, listening to the dreadful quiet that follows, a silence more terrifying than the scream itself. The psychological pressure becomes unbearable for another, a woman named Maria. The entities have been whispering to her in the voice of her deceased mother, blaming her for the death. We watch on our monitors as she begins arguing with an unseen presence, her voice growing more frantic and desperate. She falls to her knees, sobbing, begging for forgiveness from an entity that is merely feeding on her grief. It is a heartbreaking display of mental and emotional destruction. The forest has found her greatest vulnerability and is methodically, cruelly tearing her apart with it. A chain reaction of panic erupts. The remaining contestants, now numbering only 3, turn on each other. The paranoia planted by the mimicking voices blossoms into open hostility. Accusations fly. You tried to push me. You're one of them. A desperate, clumsy fight breaks out in the faint glow of a dying flashlight. It's a pathetic, tragic spectacle. They are no longer fighting the forest, they are fighting each other. The entities have succeeded. They have turned the humans against themselves, another classic demonic strategy to create chaos and harvest the negative energy it produces. The symphony reaches its crescendo. All around the remaining survivors, the woods erupt in a cacophony of paranormal sound. We record the screams of men, the weeping of women, the laughter of children, and the guttural roars of something inhuman, all at once from every direction. It's an overwhelming sensory assault, a wall of sound designed to shatter the last vestiges of human reason. It is the sound of 1,000 trapped souls crying out at once. It's the voice of the forest itself, a chorus of pure, concentrated agony and malevolence. It is the sound of hell on earth. Only 2 remain, a man, Liam, and a woman, Ilara. They are huddled together, not out of trust, but out of sheer primal terror. The forest is not finished with them. It has saved its most gruesome spectacle for the end. Before them, the ground begins to tremble. The black ooze from earlier bubbles up again, but this time it pools and takes a form. It rises from the ground, shaping itself into a large, vaguely humanoid figure made of mud, leaves, and pure hatred, an elemental, a guardian of this dark place, manifested from the very substance of the forest. This entity is not a ghost, it is a physical threat. It lumbers towards them, its movements jerky and unnatural. It has no face, but they can feel its immense pressure, its singular focus on their destruction. Liam, in a surge of adrenaline-fueled desperation, grabs a thick, broken branch and charges the creature. He swings wildly, the branch connecting with the elemental's torso, but it's like hitting a wall of mud. The creature's arm, a thick tendril of earth and roots, swings out and strikes Liam across the chest, sending him flying backwards into a tree with a sickening crack. He slumps to the ground, unmoving. Ilara is alone. The creature turns its eyeless face towards her. She is paralyzed by fear, unable to scream, unable to run. This is the ultimate test. Fight or flight has failed. All that is left is the will to live. The creature lumbers closer, its earthy form dripping with foul-smelling sludge. It reaches for her. She is cornered, her back against a massive ancient stone that feels as cold as a tombstone. This is the climax of her ordeal, the final confrontation with the concentrated malice of Kindiki Forest. Her survival now hangs by the thinnest of threads. In that moment, a memory surfaces, a local legend she had dismissed. An old woman in the village had told her that the spirits of Kindiki fear one thing, pure, unadulterated sorrow. Not fear, which they feed on, but grief. With nothing left to lose, Ilara closes her eyes and focuses not on her terror, but on every loss she has ever experienced. The death of her father, the loss of her pet, every heartbreak. She begins to weep, not with fear, but with a deep, wrenching, genuine sadness. The elemental creature hesitates. It recoils slightly, as if the energy she is projecting is painful to it, a frequency it cannot tolerate. As Ilara weeps, a profound and genuine sorrow pouring from her, the hulking elemental creature begins to lose its cohesion. The raw, negative energy of her grief seems to disrupt the malevolent force holding it together. It shudders, and clumps of mud and leaves fall away from its body. The intense pressure in the air lessens, the cacophony of screams from the surrounding woods fades, replaced by a low, resentful groan that seems to emanate from the ground itself. Her unexpected emotional defense is working. She has found the one weapon the forest was not prepared for. She doesn't stop. She continues to cry, letting all the pain of her life flow out of her, her sobs echoing in the now quieting woods. The creature continues to disintegrate, its form shrinking and dissolving back into the earth. It gives one final, shuddering tremor and then collapses into a simple, inert pile of mud and wet leaves. Ilara is left kneeling on the ground, emotionally and physically exhausted, surrounded by the debris of her vanquished foe. The immediate threat is gone, but the oppressive atmosphere of the forest remains, a silent, watchful presence. And then she sees it. A faint, almost imperceptible shift in the darkness. Through the dense canopy overhead, a sliver of pale grey light appears. Dawn, the first light of day. It is not the triumphant golden sunrise of stories. It is a weak, anemic light that seems to struggle to penetrate the malevolent gloom of Kindiki. But it is enough. As the light touches the forest floor, the deep shadows retreat. The palpable feeling of being watched begins to recede. The oppressive silence is broken by the first tentative chirp of a bird. The long night is over. Ilara slowly, painfully gets to her feet. She is covered in mud and scratches, her face stained with tears. She looks around at the silent, brooding trees, the path littered with the signs of the night's horrors. There is no sense of victory. There is no elation. There is only a hollow, bone-deep exhaustion and the chilling memory of what she has endured. The €1,000,000 prize feels like a meaningless, insulting token. She has survived, but the forest has taken a piece of her soul in return. The dawn feels less like a rescue and more like being released from one prison only to be trapped in another. The prison of her own memory. Our crew moves in as the sun rises higher, the forest now appearing almost normal, deceptively peaceful in the morning light. We find Ilara standing near the edge of the woods, staring back into the shadows. Her eyes are vacant, haunted. She is the winner, the sole survivor, but she wears the title like a shroud. We try to speak to her, to debrief her, but her responses are monosyllabic. The trauma has erected a wall around her that words cannot penetrate. She has witnessed the raw, unfiltered truth of the other side, and it has broken something inside her. We document the scene. We find Liam's body, his neck broken at an unnatural angle. Of the other 3 contestants who ran off or were taken, there is no trace. It is as if the forest simply swallowed them whole, absorbing them into its dark history. The local authorities will call it an accident, a case of people getting lost and succumbing to the elements. But we know the truth. We have the evidence, the EVPs, the video footage of the apparitions, the physical scratches, the manifestation of the elemental. We have proven that this place is a portal, a hunting ground for inhuman entities. Ilara is escorted away, wrapped in a blanket, her gaze still fixed on the tree line. She will receive her €1,000,000, but the cost was infinitely higher. She will forever carry the burden of her survival. The faces of the others, the screams, the touch of unseen hands, these will be her companions for the rest of her life. She survived the night in Kindiki Forest, but in a way, she will never truly leave it. A part of her will remain there, wandering in the darkness with the other tormented souls. That is the true price of admission to such a place. Our investigation is complete. We came seeking proof of the paranormal, and we found it in its most extreme and violent form. Kindiki Forest is not just haunted, it is a conscious, malevolent entity that actively despises the living. For Ilara, the ordeal is over, but the haunting has just begun. For us, it is a chilling reminder of the dangers that lie just beyond the veil. There are places in this world that should be left alone, places where the darkness reigns supreme, and sometimes, even when you survive, you lose. We have the evidence. Now you have the warning.